Hello everyone and welcome to Counselor Feature Friday. I'm your host, Brian Urban. In these features, we hope to give you some simple tips, tidbits, and tricks to make your days easier and your patients happier. In this feature, we're going to talk about payer list optimization. Specifically, when we say payer, we're talking about insurance companies. Within Counselor, of course, there's a list of payers with their payer IDs. In fact, the list is over 4,500 long. What we're going to view here is how to optimize it so that when you need to access a specific payer, you can do so quickly. So we'll begin by clicking on Administration at the top menu bar and then selecting Payer List. It may take a moment for this list to load, but once it does, you'll see that there is quite an extensive list available. As I noted, it's not only just the payer name, but also the payer ID as well. When we scroll back to the top, we'll notice as we go topward that this, of course, is alphabetically in place alphabetically. However, you can rearrange this, you can update this. So that's what we're going to walk through here. If you have specific payers that you use frequently, you can certainly find them on the list and move them up. So you can move them just one position, you can move them around, or move them all the way to the top or all the way to the bottom. Most commonly, you'll be moving one all the way to the top. Now, once again, this can take a moment because it's reloading the entire list, so just be patient. Everything's fine if it takes a moment. But when it jumps up, then you'll see that it is now out of alphabetical order and you have this on your list. It also means that now this is at the top of the list. When you are in a patient profile and creating a new policy profile, if you were to start typing in BCBS, it would show this option first. So it wouldn't take you through and show the full list of all Blue Cross Blue Shield plans before you got to the one you're looking for. It would show this first. So this rearranging not only helps when you look at the master list when you're adding a patient policy, but also when you're just typing in and Counselor searches for a matching a payer as well. So that's the quick way to rearrange your list. It's something that if you haven't done yet, is really, really helpful to do. If you've rearranged it a few times and maybe it's not quite the way you want it to do, I encourage you to pop in and change that around because it certainly can save you quite a bit of time when you're adding those policies. All right, so next let's look at how to update a policy. So if we want to, of course, we can click the edit option off to the right of a payer, and then we can see the specific information. If you needed to, you could change the name, you could add an address. Now, just to kind of walk through this, the most important part of all this data is the payer ID number. We would not recommend that you change this. There'd be very, very few examples where this would need to be changed. Maybe none. So you would leave the payer ID alone. If you needed to change the name for some reason, you certainly could. This would not affect the claim. The payer ID is what is used on the claim primarily. And I should reference that briefly. If you create your claims in Counselor and submit them directly to a clearinghouse, for example, ClaimMD or Apex EDI, Counselor is creating what's called the 837P file. That's the modern version of the claim. We're all very familiar with the CMS HCFA 1500, that beautiful, not so beautiful pink claim form. Counselor creates those as well. However, if you are sending the claim directly to ClaimMD or Apex, really all that matters is the payer ID number. A lot of times people say, well, I need to have an address. And that's because in the past with the 1500, you did need to have an address. When Counselor sends a claim form out, you do not need an address, right? The main thing is just this payer ID number. That's why I'm cautioning you, you really just should never change that number, okay? However, there are times when you need to create 1500s. Right? You may have a payer that's requesting that every time you send a claim, it has to, you mail us a 1500, or they want you to upload it to a portal and they do not accept the 837P. By the way, that's an important thing to ask if you are uploading claims to a portal. You may have always just uploaded the 1500, but they may accept the 837P, and if they do, that is certainly a better way to do it. It's going to be more efficient overall. But point being is there are some payers that, hey, it's paper claims, right? Or they want follow-up information and they want you to submit via paper. So in that case, if they are requesting that address in place, you absolutely can add it here. And then let's go ahead and save that. And it will save it with the with that payer profile. So when you go to create your HIC 1500, the address will be in there as well. Okay. You also have the ability to add new, and this really falls right back in that same category where you're working with a very specific payer that is obviously not currently on this list that wants you to submit by paper. Okay, if that scenario comes into play, then you can go ahead and add a payer. I would caution here, if you intend to submit claims through the clearinghouse to this new payer, meaning you're working with someone, they're not on the list, but you still want to send the claims electronically, you would not do this step. You would work with your clearinghouse, whether it's ClaimMD or Apex, to make sure they're added to the list before you did anything, right? Make sure they're added to the master list before you do anything, okay? Because if they're not connected with the clearinghouse, then the claim won't go through anyway, okay? Even if you have the information correctly in Counselor. Okay, so you'd start with the clearinghouse in that case, and then work with Counselor to get the payer in place as well. Now, back to the original example. If this is once again a payer who's saying, nope, we want paper claims only, and you need to add them to the list, of course you can go ahead and add them to the list and save. And then you can rearrange them once you have them in place as well. Okay. The last option here I want to talk about is the ability to sync your payer list. You will not need to do this very often, primarily if you just notice that there isn't a payer on the list that you need to work with, right? The first thing you likely would do, and I preface, I said before, to reach out to the clearinghouse, before reaching out to the clearinghouse, go ahead and choose the sync payers option. That will cause Counselor to look out, pull up a new list, and possibly the payer will be added with that sync, and you may be all set there. It will not interfere with your arrangements you've already done. So if in this case we had bumped this one to the top of the list, it will stay at the top of the list. So you wouldn't be in a position of having to reorganize everything. Okay, so there's quite a bit that can be done here. If you have any questions, please reach out to us, give us a call, email us, live chat us. We're certainly happy to talk this through and make sure your list is optimized, because as I mentioned, this can really save a lot of time when you're adding policies and to make sure that you have the correct payer selected. So please let us know if we can assist in any way. So thank you very much for joining us for Counselor Feature Friday. As always, have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.